What's up guys, Brandon here from Gearist. Today we're going to be getting down with the Triumph ISO number 2 from Saucony. When we reviewed the first Triumph ISO, that particular review was actually done by our contributor Eric from HamptonRunner.com. While we try to make models consistent across who reviews the different versions, for instance I will always review the Kinvaras and so on and so forth, this one just kind of magically showed up at Gearist headquarters, and so it was in my size, and sorry Eric, my turn to review this guy. One of the things I was most excited about regarding that was that since the Saucony Kinvara 7, which I reviewed earlier this year, you can see that review right here, that shoe had a bit of that new EVERUN TPU foam material in the heel of the Saucony Kinvara 7. In this shoe, it's a full-length top sheet, topsole if you will, of that new EVERUN material, so I was really excited to see how a full-length application would handle this. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Starting with the outsole that you can see here, one of the first things I noticed about this shoe was the similarity between the new design of this and the similarity between the new design of the Kinvara 7's outsole. Now what you can see here is these little series of almost chevrons, these little peaks like that. Those are actually called Saucony's new Tri-Flex technology. Now number one, they're meant to create better traction by having more ground surface. And number two, they're able to make more kind of flex grooves throughout the midsole, which you can see here. You've got ample flex grooves across that forefoot. It's also meant to provide a little bit of inherent cushioning with this IBR Plus rubber up here in the front, the XT900 rubber right back here in this area for higher abrasion. It's meant to create better weight distribution by, of course, you've got more surface area on the ground, so the foot as a unit is going to be able to spread that weight over a larger surface area and therefore just put less pressure on the foot. Now as for that pressure distribution, when I was running in this, I noticed what kind of amounted to a really smooth transition. As you can see, this is a full length, full contact rather, outsole, that there are no big gaps or cutaways in the arch or under the midfoot or anything like that. So I definitely noticed that there was a smooth transition and there was a lot of good ground contact, which made for excellent traction in both wet and dry conditions. I did run in this in a couple snowy conditions and it did okay. I mean, it's not meant for that. It's not a trail shoe or anything like that. One of the big things that stuck out to me is the durability of this. With about 45 miles on this shoe, there is very little wear. I mean, you can see kind of in this area right here, there's a little more wear, but it's a little darker just because this pattern right where my hand is right now, that's where my foot makes the most amount of contact with the shoe. So it contacts here and then just kind of settles to neutral and then comes off like that. Very comfortable on the ground, very durable, and definitely a smooth transition from the heel or the midfoot in my case to the forefoot. Moving into the midsole, this is what really made me want to get my hands on this shoe, and that was that midsole material. Now the first thing is that this guy is primarily made of, where it's not made of EVERUN, primarily made of just good old EVA foam, probably SSL, Saucony Superlight EVA foam. Pretty responsive, does a nice job, plenty of cushioning under there. For my fellow spec heads in the crowd, it's got a 30mm stack in the heel and a 22mm stack in the forefoot for a net drop of 8mm, a little bit higher by 2mm than where I like to consider my sweet spot, that 6mm and under, but still very, very acceptable. Now for where the fun begins with this EVERUN material. First, you can see it labeled right there, EVERUN, good times. The first place that EVERUN shows up is this little slice of green right here. If you've seen Adidas Boost, you've already seen PU foam being used in other applications, and in those shoes rather, you'll see it in its more raw form, because basically it looks like a bunch of balls, a bunch of PU foam granules that are kind of put together and then molded by melting that kind of puts them together in a sheet or whatever type of application. In this case, Saucony has taken the extra step, in particular in this green area, which is EVERUN foam, and they've actually molded it. They can see, I'm putting it up to the camera right there, you can see they've kind of put like a waffle type pattern on that there. If you look very closely, you'll see that the pattern is a little bit rough, because again, this stuff isn't as easy to work with as EVA foam is, which will take pretty much any pattern. So it's a little bit rough. That's not a knock at all, because from a distance you don't notice it. I mean, you guys probably don't notice it from there. But if you get up close, you can see where some of the little lines of the waffling is just a tad off. The next place that we see the EVERUN foam is a topsole. Now what this is, here's our sock liner that we're going to toss aside for a second, is a full length sheet, this white that you can see right there. A full length sheet which is glued in. I'll kind of pull it up so you guys can see it there. That is EVERUN foam. It is glued glued front to back. It extends the entirety of the length of the shoe, and it's actually really nicely bouncy. Now, whereas Adidas has used their PU foam, that boost foam, in entire lengths of midsoles in certain cases in much more chunky areas, what Saucony's done here by having that 2.5mm sheet here and right here is made it very, very kind of well distributed and put it in limited places where they feel like it's going to be most effective, which cuts down on weight since it tends to be a little more heavy than traditional EVA foam. For me personally, and I'll talk a lot more about this in the ride section, this area right here, particularly as you get toward the crash paddy area, isn't really something that I'm going to utilize very much, being a more forefoot, midfoot lander when I run. What I did notice is, again, as with the Saucony Kinvara 7, when I land here and that heel settles to the ground, kind of in the second stage of that foot falling onto the ground, I really do notice that energy loading up. I notice the compression of the foam and then a little bit of kind of that propulsion off the ground. And more importantly, what I notice is this top sheet right here, which really made what is kind of, sort of, and this is not a knock, but a bit of a clunky, a bit big of a shoe, made it really come alive underfoot. So I really like this top sole right here. Now let's move into the upper. Earlier last year, I reviewed the Saucony Zealot ISO #1. You can see that review right here. And the ISO #2 for the Zealot is coming out very soon as well. That ISOFIT system that Saucony was debuting at that time basically was an internal booty, kind of a neoprene type material, followed by this support cage that shapes up on the outside. Now, I really liked the way that that fit. The cage itself tended to buckle here and there in a couple places, not a big deal, but it really cradled the foot nicely. And in this case, the Triumph ISO 2, I feel like this has kind of matured a little bit into something that's a lot more sleek, and it's not a huge change if you look at it. It's just a little bit, but it really fits the foot better. So again, you've got that great internal feel with this booty that is gusseted right up to here, and then it goes down into the remainder of the interior of the shoe. And then you can see here, we've got these things that look kind of like, well, a support cage, exactly what they are. Then up in the forefoot, you see right here, this is bonded material, which is actually, I would imagine, Saucony's flex film, though it is not labeled for whatever reason. If you're a runner who likes to go sockless, this might be a really good option. This ISOFIT cradles the foot very well, feels very, very comfortable. I like it a lot. Now, one of the things that is a pet peeve of mine, you guys hear me mention this almost every time we talk about a running shoe, is the amount of foam in the tongue and the collar. Now first, the tongue, not such a huge violator of this. There is a bit much foam, it could easily be trimmed, but where there is a big issue with this is in the heel. So around the collar, which you can see here, look how much foam there is right there. That's probably close to an inch of thickness of foam. Here's the problem. Number one, it's comfortable. I like the way that it feels on my foot. It doesn't bother my Achilles. I imagine that if you have a sensitive Achilles area, that insert is going to feel very nice on your foot. The issue with it is that there's so much of it. So here's the back of the shoe, as you can see, the foam ends here. So if your heel is in there, unless there's a big swope back of the calcaneus there, it's going to push your foot forward a little bit. And I noticed that. You know, I did wind up kind of futzing with the laces a little bit and got it to work for me, but there's just too much foam. And I would wager that easily you could cut this in half and no one would notice a bit of difference to it. Now, not a deal breaker for me. Again, if you mess with those laces and really get your foot socked back in there, it's not going to be a big deal. But this needs to be cut in half. I mean, it would shave some weight off the shoe, and it would also make for a more comfortable fit, I think, because the fabric on here is very comfortable, that run-dry material, and it feels really great. I just think there's too much of it. I should mention that across the heel counter, there's quite a bit of rigidity, especially as you get down toward the base, the midsole of the shoe there, and there's this thing called a support frame, which is basically a plastic external support to the heel counter. Feels very good and really backs up all this structure that they're trying to put in here. Now, as we get into the fit of the shoe, the first thing is that I mentioned just a second ago, literally just a second ago, that the heel leaves something to be desired, because there is a well-shaped heel cup in here. There is that full-length EVERUN foam that I really want to take advantage of fully throughout the shoe, but because this pushes my foot forward a little bit, it doesn't really work like that. So again, I really wish this foam back here would be cut down easily by half. It would make for a much better fitting shoe across the board. As we move into the midfoot, this again is where that ISOFIT system comes into play. You got that interior booty, hugs the foot nicely, and then the exterior cage, that support cage, which just supports, I know it's called a support cage, but it really backs up the feeling of the interior booty, making for that nice cradled fit where you don't have to feel feel like you have to lace down so hard. As we move into the forefoot, I actually quite liked this. The one thing that I will say about this is that material being in the heel, if you're going along and it tends to push your foot forward just a little bit, it's going to kind of push you into the shape of the toe box, which I don't like. I want my foot to be able to be where I want it to be, not to be pushed by this rear material here. However, that said, I like the toe box of this. It's a little pointy, but there is room for wiggle and splay, and there's nice room across the metatarsal head. So it's not the roundest, most open thing in the world, but it does a good job for this shoe. Also, with regard to fit, this is a size 11 and fits exactly where all of my other Saucony size 11s fit. So you should be right on with industry standard sizing. So with all the pretext that I provided you guys up to now about the ride and the EVERUN material, I bet you're probably wondering what I actually thought of the ride. The first thing that I will say is that this is a daily driver shoe, and while I think that part of that means that any brand for their daily drivers are going to really make sure that they can find a shoe that's going to have kind of a one-size-fits-all quality in terms of that ride, they've added that extra experience of the EVERUN foam that kind of bumps it to a little bit of a next level for some people while keeping the fit, build, and structure and quality of a daily driver shoe. At lower speeds, when you're just kind of cruising along, this is a nice job of cushioning. You feel that EVA, but you also feel that top sole, as well as this crash pad when you're loading into the rear of the foot. You feel the action of the EVERUN foam, and it's very responsive. Now, when you ask for a little bit of speed, when you're really kind of shoving more energy into the ground, kind of getting lower in your stance, you're going to notice more response, more bounce in that way. As for weight, this is not the lightest shoe in the world. It's not the heaviest thing out there. The men's size 11 right here comes in at 11.7 ounces. A bit weighty, but again, this is a durable daily driver shoe. And the men's size 9 comes at 10.2 ounces to give a little bit of perspective. Now, for a shoe like this, again, not the lightest thing in the world, but I do think that the ISOFIT system helps out with that a little bit by keeping it close to your foot so you don't feel quite that pendulum effect where something that would disconnect from the foot a little bit when you pick your foot up off the ground. This is a shoe that I could see people getting a ton of miles out of, and actually being your single quiver shoe if you really want it to be. You can do some speed, you're going to get that response from that EVERUN topsole as well as the heel crash pad area back here. This is going to be your race shoe if you're going long or something like that, don't want a super lightweight race shoe. This would be a good job for that. This is a really solid shoe that's going to give you a lot of quality miles. So if you are looking for that daily driver, that shoe that you're going to be able to take out at any time, still get a lively response from, this is going to be a good option for that. And before we wrap up the review, there are a couple things that I want to mention that I would love to see changed about this. The first thing is the outsole. Now, I will say that while I love the amount of traction on the Triflex and I love the amount of flexibility that it affords this shoe, there's quite a bit of rubber that really doesn't need to be here. You can see they're completely non-abraded areas. Like for me, this whole entire area is basically untouched. It's a little dirty from where I've walked in it, but there's essentially no wear here. So there are spots like that where I think the rubber, as it is right now, is meant to be very durable by providing a lot of rubber and creating, again, that weight distribution that we talked about. I feel like there may be some slightly more intelligent ways to distribute that rubber. I'm not sure what they are off the top of my head, but this definitely adds to the amount of weight that's on the shoe. And the second thing actually plays into weight too, and that is the upper. There is a lot of foam on this thing. I feel like this could be slimmed down a little bit, still be a great daily driver shoe, still be a very one-size-fits-all comfortable trainer and racer if you want it to be, but some of this foam has got to go. I mean, it's just too much in some places to really make it lighter. You could easily shave probably 2 ounces off that shoe just in the upper alone and still make it perfectly comfortable and right exactly. At $150, the Triumph ISO is a little bit of an investment, but keep in mind that this is a great daily driver shoe. This is something you're gonna be able to train in, you're gonna be able to race in, you're gonna be able to put some speed work to it, go from 5Ks up to your marathons, maybe even beyond if this is the shoe that you choose to go with. This is a great shoe that's very, very durable. So if you look at it from a macroeconomic, in other words, cost per mile shoe, it's really probably going to come out on the plus side for you. I've got to say that I don't know what I expected out of this, but for a daily driver, and I know I keep saying daily driver, it's a really impressive shoe. That ride with the amount of response from the full top sheet of the EVERUN material as well as this little heel piece insert right here is really nice. I mean, it gives you a lot of feedback. So a definite solid shoe here. Before we give you guys the question of the day, please don't forget to like and favorite this video, as well as subscribing to our channel. We need all the support we can get here at Gearist, and you guys are the first people that we can ask to help. Now, our question of the day for you guys is, what PU polyurethane foams have you guys tried? Have you tried Adidas Boost shoes? Have you tried Saucony with EVERUN in them? And what do you think? Do you really notice a big difference, or is it kind of just give or take it for you guys? Let us know down in the comments section below. Also, guys, don't forget to email info@gearist.com, where you can ask us questions for our Ask Gearist segment, or you can just let us know what's up. We're happy to answer any of the questions that you might have. As always, follow us on all of our social media outlets, which you can see are on my right, your left, and don't forget to visit gearist.com, where everything lives. Thank you guys so much for helping to support us throughout the years, and here's to another great 2016. Thanks so much, and we will see you next time.